Sir,
Hey, Lonnie, how are you?
good. How about yourself?
I'm
Thank
doing
you for the
great.
invite.
Would you mind walking your little avatar up here and joining me up front as Lonnie works his way over here? Lonnie has joined us a while ago. We're going to go through, my usual little interview, ask some questions, and I'll open it up for you guys to be able to ask questions of Lonnie. I'll post this as a separate interview on the YouTube channel, so you guys will have access to that. So first of all, Lonnie, thank you so much for coming in here and joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you for the invite.
Absolutely. And so, how long have you been with the company?
A little over a year.
Great. And what were you doing before you got the call?
I was with Keller Williams in Charlotte, North Carolina, and it was the number one market center out of the entire world. So that's where I came from.
Fantastic. And how was it that you got your initial call or information about EXP?
Sure. I was called from a friend that I had met through a class that I had traveled to Arizona for, and that was Jay Arbizit. So Jay gave me a call in April of 2016 and started talking to me about EXP Realty, and I had spent some time, a few weeks, kind of investigating it on my own, and I was just very impressed.
Well, fantastic. So, when you had the first conversation, were you looking at making a change, or were you feeling pretty content where you were?
I was actually feeling pretty content. I did fairly well my first year. I had no complaints where I was, but I knew that leading into my second year that I really wanted to utilize and leverage systems and software and things of that sort. And so that for me was my big aha moment. Was when I learned about all of the stuff that I would have access to that I, as like many new agents, would not be able to afford just being the new agent to the industry.
Gotcha. And so, as a newer agent, like you said, you were only, a year into the business, but you've made a pretty good impact in growing the company since coming over, Lonnie. How many frontline are you at today?
I actually started in the last 7 months. I had a call from a lady, an agent in Miami, and so that was in December. So my agent attraction efforts just started about 7 months ago, but my 10th person just signed their ICA today. So, and that was my goal. I wanted my first 10, and so, but yeah, my everything for me kind of started last December.
Well, fantastic. So 10 frontline in 7 months once you got focused on it.
Correct.
Great. And have you been able to have any, effective growth with your group yet, or are you focused predominantly on building the front line out?
No, I actually probably spend more time trying to help the agents out that are below me than I have with my own. And so I have right now, I believe, about 17 or 18 altogether. And trying to get them motivated and keep them excited about it and things about it. And then that's basically been my goal.
All right. Well, fantastic. And so, when I talk to folks, predominantly, I talk about what I call the four pillars: the technology model with our tools and our cloud office, the finance model with the higher split, lower cap, the stock model with the awards and bonuses and purchase plan, and the revenue share model. So, as a agent who had only been in the business for a year, what was the most, if you rank those four from most important to least important, how would you rank them?
Wow. I personally, I think that as a new agent, you're more focused on the technology and things. So that would basically be ranked more at the top. But I've realized that the agents that I've talked to that have been more seasoned, that tends to change the longer that they've been in the business.
Sure.
So for a lot of agents that I try to attract that have been in the business for several years, then they start to think a lot more about what they're going to do afterwards and their retirement. And my conversation is different if I'm talking to a newer agent that's only a couple of years in the business and I'm trying to attract them. They may not be worried about retirement strategy. So I guess for myself that I've actually had to learn to listen more. And that's what I've really had to. When I first looked at agent attraction, I was so incredibly excited. And when you're very excited like that, a lot of times it could be a turnoff to people. And so I've had to actually learn on how to do a lot more listening than talking and figuring out exactly what people's needs are, depending on where they are in their own business.
Yeah, so what I've heard you say, Lonnie, is that there's been a lot of maturity in you to be able to start being much more effective as an attractologist. So it's not just how you perceive it when you start, right? So for you, the technology was very exciting, but as you talk to people who have already figured out lead generation and they're doing business, it starts to become about other things, right? So it's more about getting into a relationship and knowing who you're talking to than just, spewing upon them what you think they're going to be excited about.
Exactly.
And so let's go back a minute. So, here you are, you're in the business, you're with another company, you're thinking everything's going pretty good, and you get that first phone call. How did the call go? What was said that got you into the next step of the process to want to learn more?
I think that, if I remember correctly, Jay spent a lot more time asking me about where I was with my business on that current month, leading into 2016 in the spring. And he did spend a lot of time talking to me about, what was important to me, and just he was telling me about his successes as well. And I had already looked at him as being a very successful realtor. And so that got me thinking, well, why are these people that are already successful at other places, there has to be a reason that they're coming over to EXP. They wouldn't just give up everything that they've given up. And so maybe I need to really check this EXP thing out a lot further. And so, yeah, for me, I think, what I did appreciate is he did really spend a lot more time talking about where I was.
Gotcha. Okay. And then, you've had some pretty good success, not just, for yourself in building with, but, working with your folks and helping to start build with them. When you're calling folks, would you share what you use for an opening script or dialogue?
Sure. I must say, too, that because of the people that I have above me, there's no need that I think that anyone in this company has ever had to reinvent the wheel. And so I attribute much of my success, not to just my efforts, but because I've been able to learn from others. And that goes across the board from anyone that is above me or anyone that is I'm not particularly under. I've called, for instance, I see Carrie Lucas is in here. And I've called Carrie just to get blogging tips and things of that sort. And that's what I think is unique about this company, is that you can actually reach out to a lot of different people, and everybody has a willingness to help. But when I do first start a conversation with someone, I basically just ask the question if they're happy where they're at. And a lot of times they'll say that they are, and that's okay, because I feel like that people, they just don't know about EXP. But it's not the first, it's not the first conversation that I typically have that draws interest. So a lot of times when I ask someone how they're doing in their business or if they're happy where they are, they may say that they are, and I ask if it's okay if I can keep up with them and keep giving them updates. And I'll say things like, EXP has tripled in size since last year, and it's going to be important that even if you're not interested, you're going to want to keep an eye on it. And is it okay if I just keep you updated on our progress? And they'll generally say yes. and I make a list. And when something unique happens about EXP or a press release or anything like that, I'm always making sure that I'm texting people a link to whatever press update or emailing them that press update and keeping up in contact with them. The person that my 10th person today is actually probably one of the very first people that reached out to me a year ago. And she found me online somehow from Atlanta. She filled out the information on my career site. I called her up, I gave her information, talked with her, found out what her needs were, put her in touch with the state compliance broker, and found out that where she was at that particular time in her life and professionally, that she was very interested in EXP, but it was going to take some time. But if I had not followed up with her and kept in contact with her and not just about EXP, but also asking people how they're doing in general, I think that they appreciate that. And so, she finally decided that it was going to be right for her, and she, just signed on today.
All right, fantastic. And then, when you do have someone who identifies themselves as someone who does want to sign up, how engaged are you in that process from them saying, I am interested, I'm going to fill out the form, to them getting into orientation and those type of things?
I would say I've been told that I'm fairly more engaged than what others may be, but I always make sure that I do that introduction with the state compliance broker, so that way I can put them in touch with whoever that they need to talk to for that. And then I actually take it upon myself to pop into agent services and speak with whoever's over the state, seeing if there's anything that I can possibly do to speed up the process. Because I found a lot of times, too, when you're talking to people and they say one thing, they're going to be telling me something completely different from what may actually be happening. And they may be telling me that they're going to be signing up that day, and then I find out, I'm wanting to be helpful, and I'm finding out that they're not signing up that day. And so I end up popping into agent services a couple of days later, finding out how they're doing in the process, and then reaching out to them and following up and seeing if there's any other things that they were concerned about, or what I can do to make things easier for them. After they sign up and they sign the ICA and all of that sort of thing, I take it upon myself to kind of direct them on what I think that they should do as far as following what agent services is sending them, letting them know that these emails are important, that it's going to seem like it's a lot. Make sure that you set up folders on your email. You keep yourself organized, but the emails are important. Work your way through them, and I, make sure right off the bat that I let them know that there's a difference in sync and a difference in conversion. If they really want to have conversion, they have to opt into it, and that's not a process that happens quickly. So I, generally follow up with a link for conversion, so that way they can get that squared away, so that way they feel a little bit more confident after that first week that, they're on the right step.
All right, fantastic. Let me open it up for questions that anyone in the live group here might have. One of the questions that I saw come from Amy was, are you using any of the technology yourself to generate leads and grow your business, or are you doing what you did before you got here?
No, for myself, I primarily use a lot of the conversion landing pages, but I think that with that, it's being consistent, and the people that I try to coach about and mentor about conversion is make sure that they go through and watch all of this stuff. The problem that I've ran into with a lot of people that are newer recruits is that many of them just do not want to watch a webinar. They feel like that to sit down and have to spend an hour of their day to watch the webinar and training, they would rather pull their hair out. So I try to help them through that process, but yeah, I do get a lot of my leads from conversion. But thanks to Bob Hayes and Ryan Hightower and all of the people that do that sort of training, it's only the tools. What I try to tell people when you first join is these tools are all here, and you are going to have more tools that you're going to have access to than what you ever thought before, but they are only as good as you use them. There's a lot of newer agents that I've recently ran into that think that there's still an easy button, and it's not. There is no easy button. If you're not utilizing the tools and you're not consistent in them, then the tools are going to be useless.
All right, fantastic. Just to answer your question a little bit, Amy, the company does not, track that on a per agent basis, but what I try to do is to stay in touch with folks that are, engaged in some of the systems at a high level. And so one of my favorite stories is one of the guys in my revenue share group. His name is Pat Keeler. And Pat had been in real estate for 30 years in Concord, New Hampshire, and then fell in love with Cindy and moved to Nashua, which is about 30 miles south. And so, he only knew one person in Nashua. She already had a house. And so, he had to reinvent himself. And so he started doing all the things that, agents learn to do. Go to networking events, get your name out there, meet other people in ancillary services, bring value, all of those kinds of things. But, as you know, that can be a slow way to try to reinvent your territory. And so Patrick met with Jeffrey Bittner, who runs our Making It Rain program, and Patrick signed up to start putting some money, some budget towards generating leads. And so I kept up with Patrick through that process. And so in his first year, he went from doing $100 a month and eventually bumped it up to $300 a month. He had spent somewhere in the neighborhood of $2,500 or so. Average cost per lead, I think for him was about $8 per lead. I know nationally it runs about $14. And Patrick closed $50,000, I think it was $53,000 of GCI off of leads that came out of the Make It Rain program, and then he closed an additional $50,000 of leads that came from those leads, so additional referrals. So he did $100,000 a year after starting the program. So when people ask me, how does the technology work? That's the example that I use because I know it well. I sat down with Patrick and went through all of his numbers and the timing and all of those good things. So I know it absolutely works. So someone's going to work the tools, but there is no magic bullet here. It's just having access to great systems and great training. Hey, Amy. No, there's not a video about Patrick, but I do have a slide in my my personal EXP Explain deck where I talk about Patrick for about 2 or 3 minutes with the same story that I just said, I'm going to be updating that. I was going to try to do it today, but it looks like it's going to be later this week. But I'll have a new one. As you guys know, we're coming up on 4,000 agents, and so our conversation around stock awards shifts a little bit as we go over 4,000. And so I'm going to update my video just with agent count and those kind of things. I'll share that with everybody here in the group so you guys can make your own slide deck and all that kind of stuff. But I do have a slide in there about Patrick. What else do we have for questions for Lonnie? So, would you like to have recruited or attracted Lonnie, right? Lonnie comes in, a year later he's got 17 people. If you attracted 10 Lonnies, that's worth over $250,000 a year to you. This is your opportunity to ask Lonnie, what brought him here, what was his thought process, all kinds of things like that.
Yeah, Lonnie, if they respond, a little more interested other than they state they're happy where they're at, kind of what's your next step after that?
I generally try to make sure that I figure out exactly how they would want me to communicate with them. And I really have to gauge that by the individual. Um, some people are, you can tell in their voice that they might be a little bit excited, and I really have to gauge it as an individual. But by finding out what their pains are first, then that kind of lets me know on what to throw to them. So for instance, if I'm dealing with an entity that's a married team, then I know that I'm going to basically be gripping on them a lot more about the advantages of bringing that team over. And not just a little graphic or anything like that, but I try to delve in a little bit more about the team policies that we have and what we follow and how everything is going to benefit them, and then talk a little bit about revenue share. And so it really just depends on the individual. But I guess in whatever pains that I've actually uncovered from somebody. Does that make sense? Sorry.
Yeah. So Lonnie, just a follow-up question to that. So in your first phone call, are you getting into the models, or are you just introducing yourself and planning the next conversation?
Kind of, yeah. I guess I do get into the models a little bit, just because I had to figure out exactly what might be the aha moment for people. Because if I just call upon them, I get calls all the time from various brokerages every week, and none of them are really that memorable. And so, to basically be able to call people and figure out exactly what it is. So I do try to do a little bit of research beforehand. So for instance, if I'm looking at somebody that might be from a particular RE/MAX office, I try to do everything I can for about 5 minutes on Google or wherever to try to figure out exactly where that office is, exactly what their commission split might be, and what sort of model that person might be under first. So that way I know that when I'm talking to them, I kind of know what angle that I might want to go into before I'm talking to them. And I think that that's helped me out a lot by, learning as much as I can about all of the commission splits. I wish that there was some place that we could go to where we could have the majority of all of these commission splits that would make it very easy. Kind of like a little cheat sheet for if I'm going to talk to somebody from Coldwell Banker, this is the angle I may want to go into, as opposed to somebody with RE/MAX, as opposed to Weicker, and as opposed to somebody that might be from an independent brokerage. So I do spend a little bit of time that I try to research a little bit about the brokerage before I call.
Yeah, and that's a really good point too, Lonnie. What I find is when you find a little sweet pocket, that you're being very competitive with, it's much easier to stay in that pocket because now you already know scripting that works, right? So when I used to move around New England and go into offices to become the guy who was going to do the recruiting for my old brokerage, I had a folder that was called the Guerrilla Marketing folder. And in there was a sheet on every single major company in the area and what their comp plan was, where our sweet spot would be, where we didn't compete well, those kind of things. And, so whether it was, Weicker is an East Coast deal, right? If we're talking in Canada, we're talking Royal LePage. And so there's all these regional players, and it might be, here in my hometown, a major regional player is the Varani family, and they've changed brands over the years, but they have a lot of offices and those kind of things. So, for the company to put something together doesn't make sense because everything changes dramatically, right? So KW has 850 market centers or so. And I'm going to say there's probably 500 different caps in that deal, and so you really need to know your local market or the niche that you're running in. Even with RE/MAX, there's the RE/MAX model, which is the 100% plan, pay the royalty, and pay a monthly fee to be part of that office. But in many RE/MAX offices, they have a Keller Williams plan, they have a traditional brokerage plan, they have a team plan, I've seen some RE/MAX offices that had up to 7 different plans for an agent to choose when they were joining that office. So, and that's not how every RE/MAX is. But once you find, some place where, leadership is not attending to, the needs of the agent growing their business, the model isn't competitive, maybe they have a reset every year. I saw that a lot when I was in Southern New England, where, you start at one point and during the year you go up, 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 up. In the beginning of the year, you reset at that lower point. And so knowing when those resets were, those were good times to be talking to those agents because they were upset that they were going to a lower number. And so as you figure out where those sweet spots are, it can make your conversations much more effective.
Yeah, I totally agree. Just to answer a couple of questions, Bob asked you asked on what I focus on if I do transactions or cold calling. I do both. Even a lot of people, with my listings, I get a notification of when somebody wants to show one of my listings. Well, as soon as I know who that agent is, then I add them to LinkedIn as well as I add them as a friend on Facebook. So that way I can reach out to the people that are even showing my listings. And then I do, basically, when I am on a cross-sale with an agent, I start to have conversations with them within a couple weeks into it, and figuring out exactly a little bit about their brokerage. So that way and I try to have coffee with them or chat with them sometime throughout the process before we close. And then maybe the week of closing or a little after. So that way I can tell them about EXP as well. So I have met people on cross sales. So that's a great opportunity too. And then someone had asked about my script for agents that want a great exit plan. I guess that tends to be a little bit off the cuff. It really depends on if I can gauge on how old that agent might be. I myself am 40. Before this age, I never once thought about a retirement plan. It just wasn't in my mind. So it wasn't in my mind. I didn't think anything of it. And so now I find that when I'm talking to people that might be older than myself, then we do start to talk about retirement, or we talk, about what their production is. And if everything stopped today, would you be able to pay your bills? Do you have a strategy or a retirement plan set up? And just, having a simple conversation, because what I've realized is most realtors don't plan for that. So I guess there really is. I really don't have a script set up for it other than finding out a little bit about, just asking them questions on if they have anything set up yet.
Great. Would you share some of those questions as, so, for me, I always talk about the needs analysis, right? How's it going now? What do you enjoy about it? What would you alter or change? So it sounds like as you're getting to know people, you want to know, what is their current exit strategy. Could you just share a little bit, what those kind of questions might look like?
Sure. Well, I have a dear friend that I've been talking to, that she just told me that she was going to be 60 years old this month. And I know that, by being good friends with her and what her pains are, and I know that she's starting to think about retirement. And so, basically when I have lunch with her, I just ask her how things are going. And just, I come right out and ask them, if they plan for everything ahead. And generally, and I think too that with me, when I use that sort of thing, it's generally about with agents that I actually know and that I've dealt with. But as far as me cold calling people and asking them, what sort of retirement they have, that's something I'm going to ask them right off on the first conversation. But, once I put them onto my drip campaign, that would be, for myself, probably a couple of conversations that I would have down the road as I get to know them a little bit better.
Awesome. And so just talk to me about the timing, and I know everyone's different, right? I've had people go through the sign-up process the same day that I spoke with them for the first time, and I've had people do it, 3 years after I started talking with them. What's your average time been between first conversation and them deciding to come on board?
Wow. I would totally agree with your statement there. There's people that I have that I've talked to that I would say that right now there's people that I've been dealing with that it's taken a year. So I guess that's maybe one of the things that I myself probably need to get better at is converting it and kind of narrowing that down a little bit. But I would say that the person that I've talked to, it's average, maybe I would say probably within about a month to 1 year. So nothing for me happens quick at all. It's not that I can ever talk to somebody and they ever say, okay, yeah, sign me up right now. Even the people that have had EXP explained, the people that I've taken on tours, I actually, meet them in the cloud. I take them on a tour and I basically, have them talk back and forth to agent services. I take them into accounting and have the accounting department talk about what they can do for them. So even after I do all of that, people still are not coming over. Their interest is peaked enough to where they want to learn more, but it's still taking them, at least 1 or 2 months, I think, by that time before they sign up.
Okay. And what would your advice be to anyone here in the room or someone watching the video on YouTube for them to have a major move in their revenue share group and be able to jump by 17 people in the next 6 or 7 months?
Stay organized and definitely do not get discouraged, because I think that it can be very, very easy to get discouraged because everyone thinks that it's going to happen and you're going to be able to just talk to somebody and they're going to instantly sign up. And that hasn't been my experience at all. I mean, it's a lot of follow-up, at least in my case, it's a lot of follow-up that I do, and that's probably too because I'm still learning on my own agent attraction efforts and learning from the people that are above me. But I would just say to not get discouraged. And I had to change my mindset. So for me, once I changed my mindset to being one that I want to make a difference in an agent's life, then things started to change. And so that's why I would say that, that I have probably, out of the 10 people in my frontline recruits, probably 6 of them may be producers, and 4 of them may be brand new agents. But I'm not going to discount the brand new agents because I know that it's going to take them, I wanted to change their life. And I had to get into that mindset that I'm out there to change people's lives. And then once I did all of the stress of, when people are converting, and that sort of just kind of dissipated for me.
All right, fantastic. I see a question coming in from David. While David's typing his question, any other questions from the group? All right, David says, okay, great. David was just following up. All right, well, fantastic. Lonnie, do you have anything else to add?
No, I thank you so much for letting me be here.
All right, and so if people were looking to place a referral across the country, what area do you specialize in?
All of Charlotte, North Carolina, and the upper state areas of South Carolina as well that Charlotte touches. So, send them my way, and then if not, I can certainly direct you to people that I know.
All right, Lonnie. Well, thank you so much for coming in and sharing openly with the group today. You're invited to come in here anytime, and I greatly appreciate you contributing.
Thank you so much.
All right, and for everyone else, I'm just going to end the meeting here. If you have topics that you would like to be part of next week, please send me an email, david@exprealty.com, and I'll add it to the agenda. We have another special guest set up for next week. And we'll also have a segment of the meeting talking about the new dashboards. You guys will have a little bit of time to get in there, look at it, and play with it. We'll get that feedback to Kirk, and we're going to keep growing. So thank you, everyone. Hope you found this to be productive. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.